We're back, we're naked, and we're ready to party.
You're not really naked, are you?
Not physically, but here on the Naked Party Time podcast, we get real and raw about life, leadership, and love. So what do you say? Are you ready to get naked?
Let's do it.
Well, as I said in last month's episode, we've made more than our fair share of mistakes in marriage.
Well, you have.
One of them being this podcast. So today, in episode 64, we're going to share the 5 toughest lessons we've learned in marriage. Welcome back, or welcome for the very first time to the Naked Party Time podcast, where we get real and raw about life, leadership, and love. If you're joining us on YouTube, hello to you guys there. My name is JeffGmaness, and I am your host. And today's episode is feeling extra lucky because St. Patrick's Day is here. And speaking of luck, you look at me like you're confused. It's on Monday, St. Patrick's Day. This is releasing on Tuesday, the day after.
Okay.
St. Patrick's Day is here.
It's here. Yes.
You looked thoroughly confused at my introduction here, but I'm going to continue.
Okay.
And speaking of luck, I happen to have the greatest treasure of all sitting right in front of me. She's the gold at the end of my rainbow, the shamrock in my step, the sparkle in my pot of gold, the real reason I feel like the luckiest guy in the world. My wife, my best friend, and my queen, Sabrina. Happy St. Patrick's Day, Sabrina.
Wow.
How you doing?
I like that.
Why were you so confused about St. Patrick's Day?
Because we're recording this on Friday.
You had your confused face on. I'm like, St. Patrick's Day is Monday.
Play along.
Yep.
Ding, ding, ding.
How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
You like that introduction?
Yeah, I did like that. That wasn't in my notes. It was a surprise.
I hid it from you.
I like that.
Yeah. I don't want you to see it ahead of time. I'll have a new one every single time now.
Oh, wow.
I got a bunch lined up, ready to go. So we took both of our grandsons to the zoo today.
Yes.
That was an adventure once again.
Oh, my goodness.
We had Baker the last 2 nights because his mom was not feeling well. And we took both of them to the zoo first thing this morning. And it took us forever to get out of our house.
Yeah, and I was even prepped. Like, I even pre-did some things. It still took forever.
Yeah. I told you, I was like, I don't know how we ever did this with 4 kids. You forget.
You definitely do forget.
We had a blast with our grandsons at the zoo. We also just recently had an Art of Marriage event at our church, which was fantastic. It was a Friday night, all day Saturday, and we had a blast doing that with our church people. And Sabrina was on the platform, co-hosted the whole event with me.
I've never done anything like that.
I know,
before.
you did awesome.
In all of our years of ministry.
Never. We've only done this. A couple times you've been on the platform with me for a Q&A, but you didn't answer any questions. You were only asking questions that came in.
Yes. I've never hosted an event with you before.
You were up there a couple times by yourself.
Yeah, I know. More than a couple of times.
It was awesome. So good job on that.
Thanks.
Now you got to do it again because you did so well.
No. One and done.
And you did answer one question in the marriage panel.
Yes, and then I cried. And
yeah, we were all shocked by that.
I know.
We played a marriage game at the Art of Marriage event. It was like a newlywed game, but it wasn't, obviously not everybody there was newlywed, so we called it How Well Do You Know Your Spouse? We had 4 couples come up there. You and me and Ryan kind of hosted that.
Yes.
And one of the questions for the contestants was, what is your wife's most annoying, unusual, or quirky habit? And while we were hosting the game, the crowd asked you specifically, what is Jeff's most annoying, unusual, or quirky habit? And you could not think of anything.
I know.
When we're at home, there's a lot of things.
Oh, yeah. I'm not very good on the spot. It's hard for me to think on the spot.
So when we got home, I reminded you of a whole list of things.
And I've already had some today that occurred in the car.
Oh, yeah. That wasn't me.
Well, yes, it was. I could hear it.
So
I got a list now.
yeah, just in case you ever get asked that question again.
Yeah, so today, what he claims he was not doing in the car was chewing on either his mustache, which he makes a weird noise doing that.
I will literally, when the hairs grow over my lip, I'll bite off the hairs.
He always does it when we're watching TV, and I cannot stand it.
It's a habit.
Or you'll tear off a fingernail and just chew on that.
I don't tear off a fingernail.
Well, whatever you do, all I know is you make this horrible noise with your mouth, and I do not like it. And it's always while we're watching
and
TV.
You could not think of this.
And then another one I thought of is like how obsessed you are about coffee. Like, oh my gosh, you go on and on and on. You can't wait to drink your coffee tomorrow morning, and you love the smell of it. And we always have to bring the coffee maker with us when we go camping or travel to someone's house. And how many times has he spilled coffee on him because he didn't have a lid for his cup? Even at the Art of Marriage, you're walking around with no lid on your cup, and you're like trying to be careful and not spill it.
A lid is, you can't drink as much with a lid on.
It's so annoying. And then you always have to get coffee. We always have to buy coffee.
And this is, there's two on
I got one more.
Because
you also did this morning too, is walk around brushing your teeth. I've never met anybody to do that until I met you and your family.
My brother does it.
I know, and I'm pretty sure your sister does. And now Mariah does it. So when I go to Mariah's house to wait for her to leave for work, she's walking around the house brushing her teeth. I'm like, who leaves the sink? Just stand there.
It helps pass the time more. You can brush longer because you're walking
I
around.
have never done that in my life.
I've actually multitasked while brushing my teeth before. I'll come get something out of the cupboard.
You probably get your coffee ready.
I probably could. So there you go. There, for anybody who's at the Art of Marriage event, there's 3. The list is long, folks.
Oh, it is long. That's just 3 off the top of my head right now.
Yeah. So before we dive in, I want to take a moment and ask everyone who is listening to subscribe to the podcast. That way you will never miss a conversation. We try and release 1 new episode each month, and every month I talk about canceling this entire thing. If you're on Apple or Spotify, please take a moment to rate and review. It does help spread the word to other people. If something from today's episode stands out to you, share it with a friend or tag us on social media. You can follow us on social media as well. Just look up jeffgmaness or Sabrina.Maness on Instagram or Facebook. You'll find us there. And if you are joining us on YouTube, don't forget to like the video, hit that subscribe button, drop a comment below, and turn on those notifications by clicking that bell so you're the first to know of new content. And if you're not on YouTube, why not? I love engaging with podcasts on YouTube.
It's annoying.
There's another thing.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I love watching YouTube
the podcasts
podcasts.
you watch are so annoying. I cannot stand them.
Well, maybe people think our podcast is annoying. With that said, see, we've got 4. The list is growing. Me asking you to do the podcast every month is probably also annoying.
No, I don't mind that. I don't have to do any work. I just show up.
With that said, let's go ahead and start diving into the 5 toughest lessons we learned in marriage. I thought about calling this episode the 5 worst decisions we've ever made in marriage, but we could have just done the opposite of the 5 best decisions because really those were all born out of bad decisions.
Yeah.
Learning the hard way. And a few of these are similar to last month's podcast. If you missed last month, go check it out. 5 best decisions we've ever made in our marriage. Unlike last time, we did not come up with 2 lists. We just have 1 list. We agreed on these together, and we could have come up with lots and lots more, I'm sure. But these are in no particular order. What's the first one, Sabrina?
The way we were raised will affect our marriage.
The way we were raised will affect our marriage, meaning we did not really go into marriage considering our family of origin, how we were raised. Who's here?
Jada left.
Oh, Jada left.
She went to
Heard
work.
the front door open. We did not really consider our family of origin. It's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember. Maybe your parents would remember. We did
We did.
marriage counseling
I was
with
thinking the same
them.
thing. We did
And
premarital counseling.
I know we talked
I'm sure
about,
it came up.
yeah, some stuff. I remember your dad asking about divorce because my parents are divorced and I come from a lot of divorce. I remember your dad addressing that. But as far as family of origin, I don't know. I don't recall what all we would have talked about, but
as I was thinking about this one thing in this podcast, like there are a lot of things in a relationship or based on your family of origin, but like family traditions around holidays. What do you do for Thanksgiving? What do you do for Christmas? What do you do for Easter? What do you do for 4th of July? All those kind of things. Like lots of families have traditions that you just think, oh, well, of course, once I get married, we'll keep on doing this.
yeah.
Or even, hey, if we have kids, there's the way I was raised, the way she was raised, like we kind of have our own ideas of what parenting should be like. And again, I'm positive that the premarital counseling addressed that. Here's what I think we did, and lots of people do. We assume that love will just make everything work. I'm sure we heard it, and probably it's like, yep, check, because we're in love.
Right. So we don't need to worry about that. It's probably,
we don't need to really talk about it.
Yeah.
Or dive deep into, hey, what does this actually look like? That we were both raised different ways.
Right. Yeah, we were raised completely different.
And that's not bad.
No.
It's just different.
Yeah.
Like there can be two families who raised exceptional children and were great parents. Everyone makes mistakes, both sides. But you come into that marriage being raised two completely different ways.
Well, and also kids have different perspectives than their parents did. So like, you raise your kids a certain way, but the way the kids received that might be different. So then you have the children's perspectives, the parents' perspectives, and now you're combining all of this, and you got to figure out, you got to align yourselves up to what that is going to look like.
Yep. And so I do think we had, the first couple years of our marriage, it was hard. We had some hard times.
Yeah.
And I do think a lot of it was we didn't really get serious about the fact that we're melding two families here. And in essence, we were melding three families.
Right.
Because you had a mom and stepdad and a dad and a stepmom. And so you had two families that you were bringing into the marriage.
Yeah.
Two families of origin. I was bringing in a family of origin. And I'm, again, positive it was in our premarital counseling, because any premarital counseling worth its salt will have that.
Right.
But I don't think we took it seriously. And it affected us big time.
No.
So to anybody out there.
Well, and there's like, how can you can't really understand and know how it's going to play an effect until you're there. But even maybe when stuff came up, we didn't address it.
We didn't address it. And I don't think we considered the fact that, there might be a reason why this is an issue.
Yeah.
There's an expectation here because of the way I was raised.
Yeah.
So that anybody out there who is considering, who desires to be married one day, considering getting married, maybe you're even engaged, or you have children who will be pursuing marriage, like this is a big thing. Again, you can't see how it's going to affect everything, but you have to walk in understanding there's going to come a point where, because of the way we were raised, it's going to cause a conflict.
Well, and I'm sure that has played into some of the divorce statistics.
I'm sure.
Because if you don't address them and just shove it aside, then that just causes a rift, and the enemy's going to do whatever he can to tear you apart.
Yep. Second one, which is kind of I think that this one leads into the second one, because a lot of the way we manage conflict stems from our family of origin.
Yeah.
Not always, but second kind of toughest lesson we've learned in marriage is conflict management doesn't magically change once you're married.
Right, because as we've learned through your relationship series that you did at the harbor, marriage doesn't fix anything.
Yeah.
It just, and even at the Art of Marriage, we learned this. It just, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, it just brings it all to the surface,
Yep.
like all the problems.
Yes.
Because you're bringing two.
Marriage puts a microscope on your problems, is
Yes.
what Art of Marriage said.
Yeah.
And again, I think before you're married, if you've been dating for any length of time, you're going to have some conflict.
Yeah.
Every relationship has conflict.
Yeah.
But again, I just think we walked into marriage quite a bit naive, thinking, oh, well, love will just fix it.
Mm-hmm.
We're in love.
Well, and we had dated, quote unquote, for 5 years. Yeah. So we should have known each other very well.
So we did not learn, first of all, hey, we manage conflict differently. And we did not learn how then should we manage conflict together with different styles.
Yeah.
Because we manage conflict very differently.
Yeah, what's the compromise?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like how can I, and this has been one of the probably the biggest thing that in our marriage still that causes conflict is how we manage conflict. Don't you think?
Oh, yes, because we're still so different.
And so
because our family of origin still plays into it.
Yeah.
Like,
right, there's ways that our families manage conflict, or the ways that we learn to manage conflict based on our family, or just take family out of it, just human origin. Certain coaches you have, or teachers, or people that you look up to and love, doesn't have to just be your parents, but there's ways we learn how we're going to manage conflict based on how we're raised, and in large part, oftentimes, based on our personality.
Yeah.
And we still struggle with that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, thankfully, now we do talk about it.
Eventually,
and this is the problem, right? How do you manage conflict, Sabrina?
I don't want to talk about it. I want to avoid it.
And how do I manage conflict, Sabrina?
You won't stop. You just keep nailing the head and won't stop. Won't leave me alone. It makes me so mad.
So I want to get it. Let's just deal with it.
But I'm mad at you and I don't want to deal with it.
Sometimes you're not even mad at us. That's the whole thing.
Well, it's just because you're annoying me. Because you're just push and push and push. And I'm like, stop.
This is good. That's going to be a clip right there. It's going to be a social media clip right there. And I seriously think we thought and believed the lie that we're going to, man, once we get married, happily ever after, it'll just fix everything.
Yeah, 100% we thought that.
And again, I'm sure we were taught, I'm sure premarital counseling talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it went in one ear and out the other.
Well, and I think, I was 19 years old going through premarital counseling and with your parents.
1 year out of high school.
And so I knew your parents really well because we'd been together for 5 years. Not that we didn't take it seriously, but everything doesn't register. You do the work, you talk about it, and you move on because there's so much you have to get through in premarital counseling. And I'm sure in the moment, we'll take this with us. But then something actually happens. Well, then you forget everything and you go back to what is familiar.
Yep.
Which isn't always healthy.
Yep. We probably would have benefited greatly from having a counselor help us.
Yeah.
Just to learn
just to be taught.
Yeah, like how do we do this? I think we would have benefited greatly from a third party, but I think we also would have been way too prideful to ask for help.
Oh, yeah.
And, I don't remember professional counselors really being promoted all that much in the church world.
Yeah,
not
25
years, however long it's been, 28 years ago this year.
Yeah, 28 years ago.
And in some church circles, it was actually frowned upon because, if you have enough faith, just pray, God will fix it. And so I think there was a little bit of a stigma even on counseling. So
it would have been helpful if it would have been normal to see a counselor, just to have somebody teach us proper channels that fit our personalities and our family of origin.
Yep.
And so then you know how to deal with me and I know how to deal with you, and it's not making each other more mad.
Yep.
Because that's basically what we did. I made you more mad. You made me more mad.
Yep.
Well, then it was hard to actually solve the issue because we're just ticking each other off.
Yep. And both trying to communicate two different ways.
Right. And both prideful and not wanting to submit.
And then probably both thinking, well, why isn't our love fixing this?
Yeah. Yeah, what's wrong with me?
Or why doesn't she love me? Why doesn't he love me?
Yeah.
If he loved me, if she loved me, all those questions come in.
Yeah.
Because we just think love's going to fix everything.
Right.
Love fixes nothing.
Yeah.
Not our love. I mean, God's love with a lot of hard work.
Mm-hmm.
I also just thought of this while we were sitting here. I was a pastor 6 months into our marriage. Got married in June. I started pastoring as a senior pastor in December of that year.
Yeah.
So not only did we have just our own pride in the way of just being believers asking for help, there for sure was a stigma in many church circles, probably even the one we were in, that the pastor can't admit. At least I believed it. Whether it was true or not, I believed it.
What was your perception?
Yeah. The pastor can't ask for help for his marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Pastor can't admit that him and his wife can't manage conflict.
Well, and even when you're in that senior pastor role and you're at a new church, like, you don't even know who you can trust to go to.
Yeah, who do we? I'm sure there's people in the denomination could have asked for help from. It would have been totally acceptable.
Yes, but this is just probably what we thought back then.
Correct.
I was 20 years old and you were 24 when we started at this church. You had just graduated. We started going there before you graduated college. And we just knew nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it's okay for me to say this. I mean, in that first ministry we were in, there was a time when one of the members of the church took me out to lunch and then had his list of things I wasn't doing right, both personally and professionally. So there was an expectation that the pastor can't do anything wrong.
Right. Well, and unknowingly, people put the senior pastor on a pedestal, and we are supposed to be perfect. So and we had a lot of conflict in our house that was right next door to the church because we didn't know how to manage it.
Yep.
But I'm sure there would have been safe people, but there is no way we didn't go to anybody.
And the biggest culprit was probably our own pride. I'll 100% admit that.
Yeah.
We were way too prideful.
Well, because you believe the lie, we have to have it all figured out. And because I think we've talked about this on the podcast before, but there was a time where my brother was visiting us. Yeah. And he thought we were getting divorced. I don't know what we were doing, but it scared my brother. And it was right before we were getting ready to move, and it was very, very stressful, and we were not handling the stress very well at all.
Moving doesn't create conflict at all. It's stress-free.
Yes. So
that was a big one. Conflict management doesn't magically change once you're married.
Yeah, and we're still working on it. It's definitely improved in 28 years.
Yep.
And
because you've gotten so much better.
Yep. That's it. I was the problem.
You've changed, and so it's gotten better. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm going to create a conflict, aren't I?
Yes, you are.
My sarcasm is also something else that will annoy you. Mm-hmm. And, that's another Maness family trait.
Yeah, it is a Maness family trait.
We don't know when to stop,
trait.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
We just go and go and go. Mm-hmm. We just keep pushing. Push the envelope.
Yep.
Bless you.
Thanks.
So, Sabrina, what is the third toughest lesson? These are in no particular order, by the way, but third toughest lesson.
Having kids doesn't fill a void.
Another big one for us. Having kids does not fill a void. Are you going to cry on this one?
No.
We don't have anything planned to say, so. Nothing wrong with desiring children. Nothing. I will tell you this, though. There are lots of people who are in marriage without children, and they have some conflict. And they believe, because I've heard couples say this as a pastor, well, maybe if we had kids, it would help. If marriage puts a microscope on our problems, guess what kids do?
Mm-hmm.
A telescope.
Yeah.
Like the Hubble telescope. Kids only amplify problems. They don't help any problems in a marriage.
Right.
And we went through this. We tried having kids for what felt like a long time. It probably wasn't in the grand scheme of things that long. I don't know how long we were trying to have kids without having children, but you specifically went through a very, very deep season of depression,
Mm-hmm.
thinking that if you only had a kid,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Well, because that's what you do. You get married and you have kids.
Thinking that this kid will now fulfill me.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it took us 3 years. And we did all the things, made sure everything was working correctly. And I just couldn't understand why this wasn't happening, and went through all those emotions, and it was very, very hard. And it was very trying on our marriage because I made it number one.
Yep.
And it changed. Our relationship was no longer, that didn't matter to me.
Mm.
Getting pregnant mattered.
Yep. And we saw friends get pregnant and family get pregnant and dealing with the questions of why not me, why them, why not me?
Oh, yeah.
What's wrong with me?
Completely questioned God.
What did I do to deserve this? We never once asked the Lord when he wanted us to have kids or even if. No. Not once.
No.
Not how many, not should we try again, not should we even have one.
No, this is what I'm doing. So we need to figure this out.
Yep.
I never sought the Lord's direction on what he wanted for us.
And part of it was just that cultural expectation of that's what you do. You get married, you have kids.
Mm-hmm.
Get married, buy a house, have kids. That's the plan.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, that is totally fine. Again, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
We just never ever stopped to consider, what does Jesus want?
Mm-hmm.
And I know during the several years that we were trying to get pregnant, and you literally desperately is not too strong of a word, desperately wanted a child. I even believed if we just had a kid, it would fix you.
Mm.
And maybe make our marriage better.
Yeah.
Which again, children don't fix marriages.
Right.
Like if there's existing problems before children, you're going to have those problems after children.
Right.
And then what we've talked about before, you have that whole issue of when you have kids, if you put too much emphasis on the children and don't continue investing in your marriage, that's why we have this skyrocketing problem of empty nester divorce.
Yeah.
Because, now the focus is all on the kids, and you should focus on your children, but you can't do that in neglect of your own marriage.
Right.
So it was a hard lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Because parenting, if you don't know, is really hard.
Mm-hmm. Very, very hard.
And grandparenting's a blast. It's also hard.
Yes. Oh my gosh. It is very hard too.
One of the hardest part about grandparenting is you can't parent the grandkid.
No, I kind of got on to you today. Because I was afraid you were going to try to discipline Dakota, and Mariah had already been taking care of it, but you didn't see that she had been taking care of it. And you marched over there like you were going to do something. And I was like, you better keep your mouth shut.
I did good.
No, you did.
So having kids doesn't fill a void. Love our children. Can't imagine life without them. But they did not fill anything.
No, and just the stress of raising children caused a lot of conflict between you and I because we did not agree on how to parent
teenagers specifically.
Yes, one child in particular. And I mean, it really is like, I don't want to say a miracle, but when you choose to get married, you really have to fight for this to work and to stay unified. And because there are things coming at you from every direction. The enemy is doing whatever he can to divide and break apart. And by God's grace, we made it through some very, very hard things that maybe if we would have opened the door, could have broken us apart.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Without that, number one, a commitment to Jesus, and number two, a commitment that we are in this no matter what.
Right, and the D word is not on the table at all.
It would have tore us apart.
Yeah. We definitely have been through some
and that's
things.
not the only thing that would tore us apart.
Yeah.
I mean, I had sexual sin in my life, could have tore us apart. We again did not manage conflict well at all. Could have tore us apart.
I had secret debt.
Yeah, which is coming up here.
I mean, when we say we've made the mistakes, we've made the mistakes.
We've made them all. Yep. So having kids doesn't fill a void. Number 4 is what, Sabrina?
More money doesn't solve debt.
More money does not solve debt. Meaning, if we just made more.
It feels like it would, though.
And here's why it doesn't. New habits solve debt, not more money. Because more money will only expose the bad habits you already have. So if just making more does not solve the fact that I'm an undisciplined spender.
It's like all the lies we believe for every one of these, the enemy is just like, I got them right where I want them.
Yep.
They're gonna get a raise.
Yep.
And then this is gonna happen, and then they're gonna have a child. Like, we just play right into it.
Which is literally how we got into debt, because we were going from one job to another. We were leaving the first church we were at. We were going to become youth pastors, and we were getting a raise.
Yes.
And so because we were transitioning from being a senior pastor of a very small country church to a youth pastor in a little bit larger community, we felt like we needed some stuff to make us cool youth pastors. And we're going to be making more money. And so, let's just get a credit card, and I'm going to need a PlayStation. That was back in the PS1 days. I'm going to need a PlayStation. I'm going to need new clothes. We should get some rockin' Christian CDs, right? All the cool Christian music.
We needed a refrigerator in our basement full of
soda. All the soda, or pop as we called it back then.
Yeah.
And we went to town on debt.
We had a big house too. Our first house was 4 bedrooms.
Yep, because we want all the kids over.
We had no children at the time.
We got a hot tub on debt. We literally bought a hot tub.
How did we pay?
It was a credit card the hot tub company was offering.
Nice.
We maxed everything out we could. I bought a 70-something Ford pickup.
Yeah.
It cost $1,500. I borrowed it all from the bank.
You remember that?
Yes. I walked into First Interstate Bank in Gillette, Wyoming.
And borrowed
borrow 1,500 big ones
because we only had one car, and so we needed another.
Needed an old truck, 5-speed manual transmission.
It was pretty awesome.
It was fun. But that truck was ugly. It was loud.
Yeah, but Jonah loved it.
Jonah did love it. But we should have had $1,500.
Yeah, because we probably didn't have any money in savings.
We didn't need money in savings. So we made more, and then we spent it all. Mm-hmm. Well, then some little shiny piece of mail comes in. You can refinance your house and pay off debt. And so we did. Refinanced our house, meaning the value's gone up. So you take that extra, the name just, what's it called? Name went out of my head. The word went out of my head. The value of the home. What's that called?
Equity.
Equity. Thank you. My goodness. Take that equity. You basically borrow it. So we did that. So now we have a bigger mortgage. Paid off all of our credit cards, though. And what do? Rack them back up. We did that. Then we sold our house because we were moving into a parsonage that the church owned. Sold our house, made some decent money, paid off our debt. Whoop, rack it back up. We just kept on racking back up.
We didn't have a house payment.
Exactly. That's probably what we said. Like, we did it many times.
It took a long time for us to learn our lesson.
We cashed in retirement early, paid off debt, went right back in. It was only until we made the decision, it's us that has to change.
We're the problem.
Not more money. And when we finally had our have had enough moment, again, we've made mistakes along the way still, but we've lived a much different life.
Yes, if only we could have figured this out 28 years ago.
And we have made the decision, outside of our mortgage, we will not have debt. And we don't.
How many years have we been debt-free now?
Debt-free. We were in the Van Buren house when we got debt-free.
Okay, we moved out of there in 2014.
And that was after your hidden debt came out. We paid it off when we were almost debt-free the first time.
Did that cause conflict in our marriage?
No.
Oh my gosh, I was scared to death to tell you. I knew you were going to be so mad.
I think kind of like you, I've blocked that part of my memory out.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't remember I remember we starting over.
You probably didn't just say that though. I don't know. I don't remember.
I mean, we did. That's what we did.
I know.
Okay.
But it was like $10,000 that I was hiding.
Yeah. But we've not had a car payment since then. We've not had a credit card payment.
No, we pay cash for everything.
Yep. Everything. And it means we don't get to drive the kind of cars that we could if we wanted to. I just do not want to have that debt hanging over my head. Even if it was 0% interest.
Yeah.
It's still a payment I owe the company every month.
Yeah.
So if something were to happen to my income, I still owe that every single month. So I might be able to afford it, but that's the whole lie.
Right.
More money solves debt. No, it doesn't. Because that money isn't guaranteed.
Right.
It might be gone tomorrow. Mm-hmm. I hope it's not.
Yeah.
The Lord might call us somewhere else. There's plenty of people that God moves to different jobs that pay less. Mm-hmm. God's will is not always more.
Right.
So anyway, that was a huge lesson for us. That we just thought, well, if we just made more, if we just could get more, we could sell our house. Oh, we could do that refinance.
Well, and I think social media, we didn't have that back then,
yeah.
Thankfully. We didn't need social media's help. But social media now, where you can see everybody going on vacations and all the brand new cars and and it's not even the people it's the celebrities now. We can know too much And you start to feel like, man, I can't do anything. My life is horrible.
Yep.
And
if I just had more.
mm-hmm.
If I had more, I would give.
No, that's
Nope.
not true. You would give now with what you have.
Yep. Giving is not an amount, it's an attitude.
Yeah.
You give because you out of generosity, not out of the amount you have in your bank account.
Right.
And if I had more, I'd save. If I had more, it's always if I had more. Nope.
You have to do with what you have now.
Yep.
And it's amazing that God has given us more here and there throughout the years, because we definitely
didn't earn it.
No, and we did not deserve it either. And He has trusted us to manage different amounts over the
Amen
years.
to that.
And
By God's grace.
Yeah, I'm like, we're a bunch of idiots over here, and He is so generous sometimes. And
Yep.
I'm always blown away by how He provides and blesses. And
Yep. Amen. Last one. It's not in red in your notes, but
you want me to read it?
Yeah.
Intimacy does not happen naturally.
It's-
Spiritual,
yeah.
emotional, relational, and sexual.
Yeah. Sorry.
All the things.
Yep. I didn't mean for that whole thing to be red. That's all right.
Oh, you didn't?
No, it's okay.
Oh, sorry.
It was just there as, yeah, it's good.
What did you want read?
Just the first part before the dash.
Oh, sorry.
So on the other, like on the one above, see there's the red and then there's a dash. I didn't read the second part.
No, I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
This is why I need it in red.
Yeah, I know.
Because
That's my bad.
I only know how to follow the red rules.
The red rules. Intimacy does not happen naturally. None of it. Spiritual, emotional, relational, sexual, like Sabrina read. This is, again, one of those things that I just think, I'm sure it was talked about. Yeah, we did talk about an awkward premarital counseling session.
Yeah, we had some awkward conversations with your parents, but
it is what it is.
Yeah.
They did. My parents did do a great job. My dad's a great premarital counselor. He probably wouldn't say that.
Oh, no, they were excellent.
They were.
It was just weird on some subjects because
Yep.
it was your parents.
Yep. And again, any of this stuff that we had to learn the hard way later was not due to the effort of our pastor, who was my dad. We did do premarital counseling. It was a workbook we went through.
Yeah,
We met with
it
them
was
one-on-one.
excellent.
It was very, very well done. It was the same material I continued to use when I was in ministry for people. I honestly think we thought that love will fix it.
Yeah.
And this was one of those places.
Well, and even though in our dating years we had a lot of conflict, I don't know why we didn't. I mean, we truly must have thought marriage was going to fix it, because we broke up 7,500 times. I
Wasn't quite that
dated
many.
other people. Like, I cheated on you. Like, why did we think us getting married was going to work?
Exactly, because we thought we believed the lie.
So when we I don't even know, like, you're just so naive, I guess, to some degree.
Yep.
And you just don't think this isn't really going to play a part, even though we'd already seen some of it play a part.
Mm-hmm. And again, the intimacy thing, one, it wasn't talked about a lot in church, like publicly.
Yeah.
Intimacy was not talked a lot about in the church. The message I did on sex, even here at the harbor, my own grandma, who's 102, said she's never heard a message on sex in 102 years.
I know, that is
crazy.
She's been in several different churches.
And it's not an easy subject to teach on.
You
and
definitely
I
felt
understand
the weight.
There's culturally, a lot of my grandmother's life, culturally, it would not have been acceptable.
Yeah.
Which was, again, that's probably the problem.
Right.
Because then there was probably a lot of sexual issues just hidden behind the veil because people didn't feel like they could talk about it.
Yeah.
So there was that piece. But when we got married, it just wasn't like this publicly talked about thing other than don't have sex until you're married.
Mm-hmm.
But once you're married, all bets are off, just go for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do think we probably had this And in our premarital counseling, there was, I remember the probably the one lesson I remember. But I remember it talking about, what your expectations were, how frequently you think you would have sex, that kind of thing. I'm sure I probably thought every day, baby. I'm sure that was a fun lesson for my parents to have with their son and his future wife.
Yeah, they probably didn't want to know the answer to some of those questions either.
So it wasn't talked about like just in normal Christian nomenclature, if you will. But I again, Hollywood it just happens. The clothes just fall off and instantly there's this sexual compatibility and ecstasy, and they're both pleased and orgasm at the same time, and right?
Yes.
Yes, I just used that word. Somebody at the Art of Marriage, because a question came in about orgasms, and somebody later said they'd never heard the word orgasm said so many times in a church.
That's definitely not talked about.
But there's this Hollywood depiction of, well, when you love each other, sex just works. Mm-hmm. Intimacy's natural. Like, passion's always there. And it's happily ever after is just not true.
Yeah.
And so again, intimacy is something we struggle with a lot in our marriage. Mm-hmm. In all those spiritual, emotional, relational, and then the end result of being, when those first three, spiritual, emotional, relational, are not well. Yeah. Sexual is typical. A good, healthy sexual intimacy is the fruit of those other things. And we didn't believe or didn't know that it took a lot of hard work. Yeah. To be intimate.
And because of some earlier things, like how we manage conflict, how we talk about things, we also didn't have communication about sexual needs or desires or wants, because it's just you're just supposed to know what I want, I'm just supposed to know what you want, and then it just happens. Mm-hmm. And because of how obsessed I was with getting pregnant, we were basically just having sex to make a baby, and there was we just didn't talk about it. It just became a duty in a sense, because I had one thing on my mind, and that's how you get it.
And I had one thing on my mind, and I'm like, no, I'm getting it. For real.
So it's working out for both of us. We're getting what we want, but it is not how God designed it to be. Mm-hmm.
I do think that's a lot of times what happens in a marriage. A lot of times, not always, broad strokes here. Younger couple typically. Wife wants a baby. Husband wants sex.
Yeah.
And so, well, if we try to have a baby, I get to have sex. And she's thinking, well, to get a baby, I have to have sex. And so it works for a while, and it
that's
masks.
Not sustainable.
It's not sustainable because the baby comes. Guess what a baby does to a sex life? It can get in the way.
Yeah.
And multiple babies.
So then the sex stops to some degree.
And then,
now one of them is not happy. One of them, it's a mess.
It's a miracle. Thank you, Jesus, for getting us to this place.
And you're definitely not talking about it because you don't have time to talk about it. Number one, you're exhausted.
Yep.
So you literally just start surviving. And I don't know how many people do it in survival mode, but there's no way to prepare somebody for what marriage is like, children or no children. Yeah. Coming to joining with another broken person.
Two broken people.
And you guys are going to figure this out for the rest of your life. There's no way to prepare for it.
No.
And but you got to go in knowing this is it. Mm-hmm. The D word is off the table.
Yep.
And I'm going to choose to love you even if I do not like you because you're annoying.
Yep. Amen.
And it's hard. So hard.
It is.
It takes so much work, and it takes work that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
That you don't want to face.
Yep.
That you don't want to talk about, and you definitely don't want anybody else knowing about.
Yep.
But really, you need other people knowing, because you're so prideful.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep. 5 toughest lessons we learned in marriage. The way we were raised will affect our marriage. Conflict management doesn't magically change once you're married. Having kids does not fill a void. More money does not solve debt. And lastly, intimacy does not happen naturally. Lord willing, I'll be back next month with another episode. As always, our goal is to release a new episode each month on the second Tuesday. Are we on this? We're a week off, aren't we? Yes, we're a week off this month.
I think
we
had
something
some
come up last week.
Yeah, some conflict.
If you do have any...
Not us conflict.
No, conflict in the schedule.
Yes.
We never have conflict anymore.
Whatever. We do too.
We just do better with managing it.
Yes.
Getting better. If you do have any podcast ideas or suggestions, we would love to have them. Any questions or comments, you can email my assistant, Janice, at hello@jeffgmaness.com. Sabrina, why don't we end with our marriage mission? We are united in Christ, unstoppable with Christ, and unbreakable because of Christ. Now it's time for you to go get naked
and party.
We'll see you on the other side. You've been listening to the Naked Party Time podcast. We hope that this has helped you be more real and raw in your life, leadership, or your love. Please like, rate, review, and comment wherever you see the podcast posted. We are so thankful that you are listening.